Good afternoon, Mr. Thomson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Henley. How are you?
I am well, thanks, man. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, man. So listen, thanks ever so much for agreeing to spend this time with me. I've given you a sense of what this is all about. I'm kind of interested to get different marketing perspectives. Like my big thing, I think, like the theme of everything I'm doing at the moment is why don't people understand marketing and why don't they invest in marketing? Like, you know, as well as I do, this is how you get to be successful in business, but people don't want to do the one thing that they need to do to make that happen, which is their marketing. So that's kind of my angle at the moment. But it doesn't have to be your angle. That's absolutely fine. Where I'm coming from with you is I'm just getting different people's perspectives. So like I've just told you, Ed was the first person I spoke to. He was working in marketing agencies in the 70s. Jem was working on digital marketing since 1992, before there was a web. So I'm kind of thinking of you guys. I know you started your business 3-4 years ago. You are clearly much younger than the rest of us. So I'm kind of thinking of you guys as the young guns, and I'm expecting to get kind of a different perspective. How does that sound?
Perfect. I'll give you a bit of a recap of where I started and where I am today, and a part of that involves you, as you know. So I started, let's say, my marketing journey in the events industry. My life before being a digital marketeer was an event organizer, DJ, and music producer. I used to do that in the UK and Amsterdam and Malta. And, you know, for me, social media was my secret weapon to kind of how, let's say, the elder generation of kind of people in music hadn't quickly adapted to it. And because I was on there from, like, you know, the days of High Five and everything else, I was able to kind of communicate quicker with younger crowds. And that was a bit of my secret weapon. So as a DJ, I also had the weapon of social media from the very early days, which helped me kind of rise up and find that as something interesting. I then studied in Amsterdam and got my degree in audio production and all of that. Then it must have been like 7 or 8 years ago, I got robbed essentially by a venue that kind of like took absolute, like, they had made me pay everything out for 3 months. So that's all the events, all the expenses, and everything. And that was sometimes normal in our relationship. But then come 1st January, the manager came, hugged me, said, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, what's this guy doing? You know, it was New Year's Eve. I'd had a few drinks, wasn't paying attention. Next morning, I went back to get my paycheck. The entire place was deserted. Within 8 hours, they had emptied the place, left. And so I was out of pocket for the 3 months backward. And then that's usually what you use to live off in the entertainment industry, or in my case, for January, February, March. So that's when I took a course with this crazy tutor who kept throwing toy soldiers at us. His name was, I think, Mr Henley. And that was, you know, I had a couple of side clients for social media marketing just on my own. And then I had done that few. And I understood, wow, there's a huge than just social media. And that's where it went in. So then I started my business I met my business partner 6 years ago. And after 9 months or so of working together, we built Growth Gurus, which is the digital marketing agency we run today. So that's how I went from partying around the world to sitting in an office.
Okay, cool. Right, so I had no idea you got robbed. I'm sorry about that, man.
Happened.
Okay, it does happen. So remind me when you sat the course. It was the DMI course, wasn't it? The Digital Marketing Institute course that we did in Malta. When was that?
It must be 6 or 7 years ago, give or take.
See, I think maybe 2014.
I can't remember the exact date.
15. Yeah. Okay, so maybe 5-6 years ago.
That makes sense.
Okay, and how did you end up on the course? You were doing some freelancing already, were you?
Yeah, I already had a few good clients. I mean, good, you know, just for one guy on his own figuring out social media, and I had a couple of good clients, and I really wanted to see how I could expand that service offering, since I had not many intentions in trying to make my money back in the events industry, feeling a bit burnt from that. And it just seemed like a nice way to sort of build a more stable 9 to 5 instead of 5 to 9 kind of life. So it had always been an interest of mine, you know, So I was born in 1991 in March, and then the internet came out in August 91. So I'm basically 3 months older than the internet. So I've literally kind of like we've grown together. And when Facebook came out, you know, in what was it, 2007, right? Is that when it came out? Something like that. 2014, I get confused with. Yeah, something like that. So like I spent so much time on it. You know, I was thinking one day I really need to figure out how to make some money off this bloody platform, because I've spent so long on this platform. I need to get some return. You know, that was always my mentality. And the moment someone was like, "Oh, you're quite good with that Facebook thing. Can you help my business?" I was like, "Yeah, 500 euros a month, please. I'll show you how to do it." So, so that's kind of how it started. But then I realized, you know, there's going to be a lot more to it, which is how I ended up on your course.
Okay, cool. And that was a good course, wasn't it? I think that was the second or third course that I ran in Malta. I ended up running like 15 or 16. I think it was mad. But that was a really
highly
nice
recommended
group.
it until you left. Yeah.
Yes, you highly recommended it until I left.
Yeah, because then I got feedback from other people like, "Oh, we went, but there wasn't that Martin guy you're talking about, and it wasn't as good." I was like, "Well, I'll stop recommending it then."
Okay, cool. That's very nice of you. So that kind of answers the question how you're qualified to talk about marketing. So you were marketing yourself previously as a DJ, using social to do that and doing well out of it. Then you picked up
and large events and festivals and stuff like that too.
Okay, cool. And then you picked up a couple of like freelance clients. Then you thought, okay, we need to invest more in this. And you joined the course, and then you started your agency shortly after that. So your agency must be 4 or 5 years old now.
We were 5 in January. So I had actually applied. So I found out, so I'm on a little island called Malta, for those that are watching. They're about a population of 500,000 with 49 marketing agencies. I figured out the top, well, at the time they were a bit less, but I had researched the top 10. Got an interview at 4 or 5 of them. The rest just blatantly turned me down. The ones that gave me an interview said no. And then I found this one crazy guy who gave me sort of an offer. And I was just looking for some part-time work, but I was happy to work full-time. And now I'm not saying it, but our clients call us one of the top 3 agencies. So I'm very happy I didn't get the job and got to build my own on the island. And I'm quite happy with where we're at.
Cool. No, that's really cool. So you called your agency Growth Gurus. So I'm guessing that you've kind of tied yourself in quite closely with like the sales side of things. Is that right? Well, rather than me guess, why don't you just tell me how does the agency operate?
Sure. So we offer quite a variety of services. The usual customer journey with us would start off with your onboarding workshop, and then we go into your strategy. Through the strategy, we look at different items. It's not only the external, but also internal. So we do we work with a lot of B2b. That's quite a large part of what we do, especially being based in Malta. It's a very service-driven country rather than e-commerce. There's more budget we find in the B2B side of things and more opportunity. So we do like internal workshops, which we call resource workshops. A lot of companies give us leads, but we need to. So there's the internal CRM side of things, and then of course their external digital facade. We offer all branding services, and we then do all the web development that's required, you know, design and development, UI, UX, sort of that stuff, any form of SEO that's needed, and then we go into sort of the campaigns. And what we aim to be, or what we are, is sort of really your marketing department that are just remote working for you. You know, we really kind of get good and tight with our clients, and we make sure we develop a relationship that's mutually beneficial, but is very open, transparent, and clear. And everything we do is with the goal of helping your business grow. So if you're asking us to do things that aren't going to help your business grow, we're quite happy to tell you no and why. But then we are happy to push you into the direction of this is how it's going to help you grow. So our ethos, or our core purpose, is really to just help businesses grow, whatever that may mean. Sometimes we do recruitment campaigns as well. Those go really well for clients, saves them a lot of costs because we just treat it like a marketing campaign rather than having to pay recruitment fees. So any way we can leverage digital to help a company grow, we go for it. It's not always just about the marketing.
Okay, cool. And who are your clients typically? Are they based in Malta or are they overseas?
We started off thinking Malta was going to be too small and there was already so much competition. So we started off with a lot of Canadian and American clients just because of the networks that we had. And then as time went by and those networks kind of diminished just because we weren't so close with those people anymore, we focused a lot more on more European clients. So now I'd say it's about 50-50. Let's say 3-4 years ago, it was like we had 50% of our clients actually abroad and 50% in Malta. Now what we find is we have a lot of clients who are set up in Malta just because it's quite beneficial if you're a foreigner to set up your company in Malta, just because of favorable kind of taxes and things. So we get a lot of clients that we get to work with who have their, let's say, their headquarters in Malta, but then their main production or offices elsewhere. So it's really a mix, but it's generally kind of like 50-50 from Maltese to foreign-owned companies.
Okay, cool. And so it's B2B clients. Is there a particular sort of B2B clients that you're attracting, that you're working with? Are there similar industries or?
I wouldn't. It would be nice to have a niche that we are focused on, but being in Malta, you need to be quite spread. So I'd say at the moment, we're kind of 80% B2B and 20% B2C. And then on the B2B side of things, it's usually around the sort of tech or gaming side of things. We also have quite a few, let's say, training companies like academies, some large scale clients. We've worked with sort of Burger King, Pizza Hut, PwC, just the whole myriad of different companies from different corners of the globe and services.
Okay, so you're not niching then. You know that that's bad. You know that you should be niching. I've never believed in it myself. I don't care. I'll position myself and whoever finds me. That's kind of the way I felt about it. I don't particularly need to know about their industry. They can know about their industry. I know about the marketing, and together we kind of make it happen. So that's what I always did. So how do you go about winning your clients? What does your marketing look like?
Smiling, really, just walking around smiling, and then people come. we use all different. We use all the different channels available. We do very well on Google PPC locally. We've got quite a good budget for that, and then we do the Facebook and LinkedIn. We spend more on Google and use that quite a lot for sort of prospecting. So we really find like warm leads that are coming for us, and then spend a lot on the remarketing through Facebook and the audience network. We for ourselves, we don't use it as much. Programmatic display advertising for our clients, more on the B2C side, we use that quite a bit. We also just really network a lot. I mean, it's been a bit tougher now, but we have quite a social team, and not like social media, like actually just very sociable people. And so we've built quite a good network that also refer us leads. We don't rely on it, but as we do good work, that grows it. So I'd say it's a mix of consistent brand awareness campaigns going out on LinkedIn and Facebook, quite heavy bidding on Google, and then remarketing again through Facebook and its audience network, as well as we suck at emails, so we don't really do any email. And then, email, a lot of kind of networking events when we're allowed to, now more moving towards online events. We also did a ton of live shows, kind of this kind of thing, where we did like 40 of them over COVID. And that really created a lot of brand awareness. So we did between 20-minute to half-hour talks with anyone we could find who would sort of listen or talk to us. And we did it live, usually industry professionals. And we did about 40 of them over 2 or 3 months. And that really, really helped share our name in like a time of darkness, where everyone was super confused, which was like between like May and July, mainly for Malta, like what is going on. We really capitalized on trying to shine a light by just finding industry professionals and asking them like, hey, would you talk about how AI could help, or how wellness could help, or how music could help, or how comedy could help, and really just got a wide spread of people. So just trying everything we can online all the time. There isn't one winning formula that we stick to. It's just try.
Okay, cool. And I think that's definitely the case. So that answers the question, does it already, what it is that you do for your clients. So you do, you try everything for them and you persist with what works. Is that kind of the approach?
No, for ourselves, we do that and we experiment a lot on ourselves. With our clients, we're a lot more diligent in the strategy and the research because we don't want to waste any of their time or budget. So we sort of use ourselves and some clients that are happy with that approach to really just, try absolutely everything, see what sticks and not be too fast, exploring a new platform. Like, okay, how are we going to make TikTok relevant for a B2B marketing agency? We kind of decided in Malta we weren't, even though we tried it out. It just didn't seem like where we wanted to spend our time. So we know what we can do and what we like doing as our skill sets. For our clients, we usually spend quite a long time. I mean, 2 to 4 weeks is in a long time, really researching and developing the strategy with them to make sure that, like I said, it works in line with their resources. We don't try to position ourselves as the agency that do everything for you. We're the agency that will set up your structures, consult you, and then even help you recruit the people to kind of take over the basic tasks like social media posting, community management, even if they want their own graphic designers, so that we get to more focus on the big picture stuff, and then we really love running and executing all of the campaigns. So it varies, but each different client has their own specific strategy. But at the moment, I would say we stick to the top dogs being Facebook, LinkedIn, a bit of Twitter, programmatic display, SEO, PPC, content marketing, the normal bits and bobs.
The normal bits and bobs. Certainly they are the mainstays. So this is something that I'm interested to speak to you about because you are, how old are you? You're 29 now, are you? You're born in 91?
Yeah.
You're 29. Yeah. Okay. And you have, like you say, you've grown up with the internet. So the internet's always been available, or the internet has been available since you were 3 weeks old and since you were old enough to know what it was. You were using social media in your teens. So I'm kind of interested to know how you feel about that. So the question I ask is how you feel about marketing. I'm getting a sense that you're pretty excited about marketing.
I love it. I really do. I really enjoy it. Right now, personally, because I've been doing it for so long, like as the company before, my own personal interest is a lot more in the operations of the company and how it functions, and really just focusing on optimizing our internal services. I kind of like, my position is the CPS, Chief Problem Solver. So whatever problems there are, bring them on. That makes me happy. I love also solving our clients' problems. The marketing itself, I'm now much more interested in having our heads of departments kind of give us a presentation like, wow, here's the newest and coolest ways we could do marketing, and then let's try it with clients X, Y, and Z. So I would say I love watching my team do awesome marketing. I personally have taken a bit of a step back from the actual execution to more focus on making sure our business is as optimized as possible.
Okay, cool. So what is it that excites you about marketing? Is it the new and exciting opportunities, or is it seeing success for your customers and for yourself? What is it that excites you about that?
I really like my favorite kind of customers are there's two types. There's one that really just needs that digital transformation. They're not sure what to expect. They kind of need that hand-holding process to go from, we've got a really terrible website and we can't spell SEO, to, like everything's working, they're seeing it, they're feeling it, and just going on that journey of growth. These are usually like, they're not have really old school way, the old about their systems work and how everything functions, and then being able to translate that into digital. I love that part of it. The other side of it is companies that are more advanced, but they've had so many different ideas and maybe a high turnover in their marketing department that they just have an absolute mess that we then get to go in and sort out and structure. So what really excites me is how it's a service you provide. It has clear structures, but there's always room for like the artistic element in it. Whereas I don't think you'd say the same about like IT networking, or maybe being a lawyer is slightly artistic, but accountancy definitely isn't. So I love that it's a mixture of data-driven structures, but is infused with creativity. So you get to really meet a whole wide variety of different people and help them reach their goals.
Yes. I think it's a very Maltese perspective to think of lawyers as being creative, but accountants not. I think that's kind of a Maltese. What I always found in Malta was that everybody is complaining about other people breaking the law, but no one's allowed to say anything when they break the law themselves personally. So I think that's a Maltese perspective. And I think for people who don't know about Malta, Malta, like you say, it's a population of around 500,000. It's an island, it's an hour by boat off the south of Sicily. But Malta really punches above its weight in some spheres. Like there's some really successful, I'm thinking of Hotjar, and there was another, internationally known digital marketing tool that I only recently found out was Maltese, but I wasn't surprised.
I see their ads every day. It's with an A. I can't believe I'm not remembering it right now, but I know it's an orange logo. I can visualize it. I just can't remember the name. It's with an A or an O.
There's only 500,000 of you, man. It must be your cousin who runs it. This is what I do. Whenever I meet Maltese people, I always say, look, I know somebody you know, and they don't believe me. And then I go on Facebook and we've got like 300 shared connections or something. So tiny population, really interesting attitude to the law, really successful in terms of what you're doing. Sorry, my mic's just come unhooked. Does my sound go funny? That's not a good look.
Sound good.
So really punching above your weight in terms of some technological type stuff. The gaming industry does really well there. Like lots of the big gaming companies are all based in Malta. So yeah, Malta is kind of an interesting place. Do you think, how is it selling to Maltese people?
Could you define the question? Selling what?
Well, I've only ever had a couple of Maltese customers, and I haven't found it to be I think Maltese people are quite challenging buyers. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they question a lot. There's two types of customers, I think. I mean, I'm going to generalize. I'm not really thinking this through, but I just for anyone watching, I have to speak and then rationalize while I'm speaking. I don't have the ability to think before I say, so I need to be careful, but I'm not very good at that. So I think that, so not like foreigners that live in Malta, direct Maltese people. You have the ones that think they know what they want, but are looking to be guided. And those are the ones that you can really develop a relationship for when they know that they don't know what they need. And then you have the ones that think they know it all, and it's just like, oh yeah, just make a graphic, put it on Facebook, have it done tomorrow, I'll give you 50 euros for it. And it's like, well, it doesn't exactly work that way. It could, but you're not going to get any results. So you really kind of need to balance out, and then either try to educate the ones that think they know it all to what they don't know, and take them on that path, or just kind of cut losses and focus on the ones that are actually looking to develop a relationship. I'd say there's like two very polarizing sides, and that often comes with the Maltese culture, where we can be very welcoming, or we can be very like, no, we know it all.
Yes. And I think that's not particularly a Maltese thing. I think there are those two kinds of clients. I think that's almost universal. There's something weird goes on when people come to buy marketing, I think. I just think there is something weird that goes on. And what I've always found is you turn up, or they invite you into their business because they don't know anything, and then you blow their minds and leave them, hugely excited. And by the time you go back for the second visit, they've Googled everything and they know everything, and they just want you to do this and to do that and to do something else. So it does seem to me that that's particular to marketing and not necessarily particular to Malta. Yeah, I do think Maltese people have a very particular character. That's, I really like it, but it can be quite challenging. And I suppose just because you're in such a small market, you are essentially 500,000 population. That's not even as big as most cities in the UK, for example. So that's kind of interesting. So where does it go? You feel about marketing, you are, okay, so this new technology stuff. I had a conversation with Jem, and Jem was telling me how exciting and how the internet evolves all the time. But it doesn't seem to me that there's really been an evolution since, like the last thing was probably mobile apps, and that was probably 8 years ago. Like we have seen new social medias, like, I don't know, now we've got Twitch, and there was TikTok, and before that there was something, Snapchat, and all these things. But it doesn't seem to me like it's evolving at the pace. I'm not as close to it as I used to be, but it doesn't seem to me that there's too much going on in the way of groundbreaking technology these days.
I think it just depends. Like I'm a very process-driven person, so the technology for me is just kind of like one of the tools you're going to use. In the end, what I really believe all marketing is about is, you have a message, you need to get that message to the right people at the right time, and ideally on the right platform. So according to the different tools that you use, if you're going for kids, then of course Snapchat and TikTok is going to be awesome, is my presumption of it. But I think the major revolution really was social media, and yes, app marketing as well. Now I think the changes are really the nuanced changes, like what is it, in a year, 2 years, where there won't be pixels anymore, so you can't buy third-party data anymore. How does that impact really large companies who really depend on it? So it's a lot of, I think right now a lot of the evolution on it is since GDPR, these more like legal changes that impact how we use the tools that we have at our disposal, rather than what new tools there are. I like you're saying, maybe I'm not aware of it, but I haven't seen any crazy major changes where I've gone, wow, we should really add in that to our whole arsenal. Especially being on the B2B side of things, we have the, let's say, opportunity to wait a bit. We tried being the early adopters all the time, and really what that brings is an uneducated client base, a lot of costs, a lot of R&D, and not always a return on investment. So on the B2B side of things, things move slower. Like we get to capitalize on LinkedIn and Facebook and Google, which have been around for decades at this point. So yeah, we watched technology evolve, but I was very excited about VR and AR, and I really thought that was going to come in as soon as Facebook had sort of purchased Oculus. I had got all the sets and kits and everything. To this day, I still have them in the boxes in storage after 4 years, waiting for them to become the forefront of marketing, which they just never really did, or maybe not in my world.
Yes. Okay, so that's interesting. So and it seems to me that the real challenge, it's really good to hear you saying landing the right message on the right people, and then you said the right platform. I always say the right time, because that's something I quote in my training. So, and I think that's exactly the case. But how do you feel about these platforms? Because it seems to me that the changes, like one of the things I think that stops people marketing, well, I think there's two major things. So there's the jargon, like marketing people are speaking junk, no one knows what they're talking about. So there's the jargon that makes it really inaccessible. And the second thing I think is these big platforms and the fact that they're changing all the time, and not necessarily in a useful way, just in a way. Google decides they want to change something on the UI, it changes globally. There's no feedback, there's no recourse, there's no nothing. So for example, when I was speaking to Jim on this channel, Jim was saying that he does all these things, and actually what Jim does, he's a printer in the UK. And what he's always done is he's always been at the forefront of all of the marketing. Like he rinsed SEO back in 2005, 2006. Before that, he was rinsing PPC. Then he rinsed social media. So he kind of gets into these things and rinses them. But then he says the issue is that once you've set it up, if you're one business, if you're an agency, you might be doing this all the time. But if you're one business, you set it up, it runs for 6 months, and you go back to look at it and it doesn't look the way it did anymore, and you don't know it, and you have to relearn it all over again. So it seems to me that one of the big challenges of marketing is the fact that these companies are changing things all the time, not necessarily for a good reason. And that for me seems to be one of the challenges. How do you guys cope with that?
I'll say one thing before I answer that is you get the now the platform is going to optimize when it delivers the message to be at the right time. So that's why I now say to the right platform, the right message to the right people on the right platform instead of the right time. That's been my little nuanced change. just because, you know, there's no such thing as kind of organic social anymore, except on maybe TikTok or Snapchat, but it's not where our agencies, you know, focus is. So really, because we do everything through paid media, it's, you know, we're optimizing when the message is going to be delivered to you based on your sort of persona. So we used your saying for a long time internally, till one day we changed it from time to platform, because we realized the platform would sort out the time for us.
Right. So you were saying you don't have to worry about the time, the right people, the right message on the right people, but you don't have to worry about the time anymore because it's the platform that does it for you.
To a certain degree, yeah, it should. I mean, once you, if I mean, I'm speaking mainly from, you know, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram kind of point of view, you know, and Facebook and Instagram being on Business Manager, but you are going to need to worry about the time to a certain degree. But as it's optimizing, you know, it knows each individual so well that it's going to optimize it to serve the right ad to you. So, you know, advertisers want to spend more. So that's why I really think it's more about the right platform now. You know, if it's going to be B2B, then make sure you're focusing on maybe LinkedIn, using its tools. And then once you've got them to your landing page, use Facebook and Instagram for consistent brand awareness and kind of remarketing to remind them of your initial core offering. And each of those tools is going to have its own algorithms and functions and optimizing how it gets that message to you. But I really believe, yeah, it's you need a mix of platforms, but right message, right people, you know, craft your message well, or find out who your people are, make sure your message is really suited for them, and then optimize it for the platform that you're trying to hit them on.
Okay, so two things. The first thing is we kind of just glazed over the fact that there is no social media marketing anymore. It's all paid now. So everything you do is paid.
From our side, yeah, pretty much. I mean, we do, you know, post to Instagram, and I mean, let's say 90% of our service offering, yes. For some clients, there was one client who did a great job. Her name's Sarah Young. She's a wedding planner in Malta. She's been doing it for about 9 years. And once she started working with us, we had the mix of paid and organic. And our goal was to kind of make her a celebrity in the international wedding planner world. And within, like, I mean, it's not a short time, but within like after a year of hitting the right people, but mainly focused on hashtags and leveraging how Instagram works, we got her recognized by some of them. She got offered to do a TED talk, and then she was offered to do go to some events. And then I think as of last year, she was flying around with the top 10 wedding planners in the world and doing kind of conferences and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it worked organically, but there was a very clear purpose. There was a very clear target audience, which were the people. We crafted the message of, look how awesome Sarah Young is. She's worked with all of these. This is what she can pull off. You know, she's a magician in wedding organization. And then we knew the right audience and the platform to hit them on because we had done our homework. So yeah, it does work. But even the organic side of things was about the platform for us rather than the time.
Okay, so that was an organic that worked. You see, I haven't been marketing myself in the last 5-6 years, and I've kind of gone on with a few clients, and I haven't really had to explore this so very much, but it just kind of, it shouldn't be a shock. I was probably telling you this in 2015, you're going to have to pay for everything. But I'm kind of like, that's actually the case now. 90% of what you do is you're paying for advertising. So essentially you are an ad buying agency for your clients, or part of what you do is about buying ads. Okay, so I just need to take stock of that. Now, my experience.
Same with influencers.
Okay.
So yeah, same with influencers. Like in the end, these people build up on social following, but you're going to pay them to show off the product. Like, hey, sorry, I've been playing with this pen. And, you know, like, yeah, you know, I'm selling this pen. I'm an influencer. Obviously, that's not what they say or how it works, but you're still buying the attention. You know, you're going to pay them the 400 or 500 euros for the post to a story, whatever they're going to do. So it's really the same thing. So even if you try to call that organic, it's not, because you're buying it. I would count organic as as my brand, creating some content, putting it out there and not spending on it. But if you're paying other people to advertise your content, then I also kind of count that as media buying. It's just another way to hit an audience.
Okay. And I suppose the whole thing the benefit always of paying for the advertising is that it is super trackable. You can see exactly what you've spent and exactly what the return is. Are you getting involved on that level with your clients? Are you talking to them about cost of customer acquisition and lifetime values and those kinds of things?
Yeah, entirely. We go down as far as we kind of do our own mystery shopping, and then we'll pretend to be clients on the other side of it. We'll get proposals from our clients, say, look, this is how you need to optimize the sales process, because you can't just be sending not even a PDF, the actual editable PowerPoint without any form of customization and expect that to sell. This is what your competitors are doing. So we really try to be sort of your growth partners from all aspects of it, where the digital tools are the key focus and our sell point, but there's a lot of added work that we will do to help you optimize it. Sometimes we could just leave the ads running because our ads are as good as they need to be, and then really focus on how you follow up with your emails, how you treat your first interaction with the clients. Just sending them something generic doesn't work. Just offer them a call to let them know you're available. And there's a lot of things that a lot of maybe people watching this would take as common sense because we're in marketing, but not their companies always think of. So
Yes.
we try to give them the holistic kind of view of how it all works. It's not just on us. We're a part of it.
Yes. And in terms of the return on investment, because I suppose I'm lucky that I stopped offering services essentially other than to clients, which were kind of always going to go on. I stopped before it became a pay to play kind of situation. So I've only, we used to run Facebook ads. It was a complete joy before it got crazy expensive and crazy complicated. And what other social, we've done paid PPC forever. So I'm familiar with those things. The only time, there was once when I used LinkedIn as an advertising platform, and it was to market one of my courses, my personal courses. They charged me £17 a click. They claimed, it was only on for like half a day, thankfully, because they would have bankrupted me. They were charging me £17 a click. They claimed 17 clicks or something. So it was up at £340. And only 2 of those turned up on my website, and they were each there for like a second. So where I'm coming from, I definitely have a distrust of certainly LinkedIn, but all of them, I kind of don't trust what it is they say they're going to deliver. And it feels to me like the part of the reason that it's so confusing is that people have that much less transparency, so they can't see what's actually going on, so they kind of stay hooked in. That's my feeling about it. Am I just being a cynical old prick, or is there actually some value to be? There clearly is, because you're running your business like this.
It's both sides. I think that more and more the platforms are getting complicated. Like before, I was a whiz at Facebook. I could do anything I wanted, and literally just after 6 months of not using it, I went back to set up a campaign because my head of campaigns wasn't available. I said, yeah, I'll take it over. I was like, whoa, this is majorly different. It's still the same in principle. This is like a couple of years back. LinkedIn used to be, it still is quite a bit more expensive than Facebook, but I think I'm not sure if it's going to slightly cheaper, just Facebook's getting more expensive, but we really have identified what you'd want to use each one for, and they do have their own purposes. And it really is about just making sure you're on top of your max bid to make sure that you're not letting the platform choose for you, because then they are going to try and bankrupt you. And what we've found is if you do a bit of homework beforehand and then set things up, we're always going to save on budget and get a better job. When we just try, obviously you don't want to try and experiment, but really just taking it small and bit by bit to really find out what they're going to charge us for a click, and then working backwards and saying, okay, and what if we put half a bid in? Do we get any results? There's a lot of more of this, I'd call it like minor testing before we actually launch a proper campaign. So the discovery campaign, which is really just discovering how much these are going to charge us to hit our audiences. And then we check that with our clients and we say, look, it's going to cost, like on LinkedIn, 50 euros a click for these people to go to the website. Is that worth it to you? Sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. So where we've got to is there's a lot more feedback and transparency between us and the client. And it's like, Before we positioned ourselves as us and our tools, where you were doing you a favor. Now it's us and the client are contemplating how we use the tool. And I feel that's been our major kind of shift as an agency, on the sort of mindset as, you know, if you hire a carpenter, he's going to come with his sandpaper and his saw, and you're just going to be like, accept whatever tools that he comes with. Whereas now us and the client choose the tools we'll use to get the job done based on the cost that are going to be involved.
Okay, cool. So the other thing about that then is, what was the other thing? There was something else I wanted to say. Okay, so there's two aspects to all of these channels now. So you can do Facebook advertising, you can do Facebook Messenger marketing, so you can do LinkedIn advertising, you can do LinkedIn in connection, whatever they call it now.
In mail, yeah.
In mail, yes. So for me, the advertising is only ever display advertising. So actually getting clicks like that is pretty torturous. And so that's that aspect. The messenger side has always been much more kind of responsive. So how are you finding it? Are you running both of those sides? Is one side more effective than the other side?
So what we love about Facebook and LinkedIn is their, man, I sound like such a fanboy when I say that. What we love is their audience networks, which is not particularly the ads you see on Facebook itself, but on all of the inventory that then Facebook owns across all the different platforms. So I'm an avid user of the app called Flipboard. And I don't know if you've used Flipboard, but it's basically you customize, choose what you're interested in. And instead of scrolling through Facebook, you scroll through Flipboard and you just sort of see just news and content that you really enjoy. So I really like that tool. And often on it, then I see our own clients' ads coming on Flipboard articles because it's being purchased through Facebook's audience network, and the same for LinkedIn. So that's why when it comes to display, I personally prefer their audience networks, but then of course you do use the actual platforms. But I think people have really strong brand blindness, you know, ad blindness to just Facebook. It's so easy to scroll past. You're just trained at seeing ads. When it comes to messenger bots, yes, Facebook is awesome for it. When LinkedIn comes into question, we prefer to use third-party bots. Hope I don't get in trouble for that. But there's ones like Meet Alfred or Prospect In. And what they do is they sort of automate your LinkedIn bot kind of strategy. So it would feel like, hey, Martin, you know, it'd be really customized. Hey, Martin, how are you? So you're working in that industry. We work in it too. Let's connect. And then you'd press connect. And then it'd be like, oh, thank you so much for connecting with me. And then it's like, hey, could I get your opinion on something? You'd be like, yes, of course. And all of that would be automated, but feeling like it's customized, because our bots can pick and choose from your profile to make it seem like we actually care about you. And then once you've said, yes, I'd love to give you your opinion, my opinion, it's like, well, we have this service for you that might do you good. What's your opinion on it? And then we find that to be more effective than InMail, because InMail is literally popping up on the side and it says, this is an ad, basically. Whereas using the bots, you know, you just pay for the service fee of the bot. So it's cheaper than ad spend, and it feels more personalized. And you can do things like tell it to go and follow a person. And then after, you know, 3 days, ask them for a connection, send them a customized message like a day later saying, oh, thank you so much for connecting. So that's quite handy. So there are, let's say, add-on tools that make the bot experience or the messenger experience a lot more fun on the marketing side and feel like less of an ad to the customer side.
Yes. Okay. So less advertising, more kind of reach out and engagement on the, even if you're using software to do that, it's more targeting, reaching out, engaging, moving to a conversation on the LinkedIn side. Okay. That makes sense. I didn't know about, you know, it's probably frightening what I don't know about where these platforms have got to. But when I listen to you, it sounds to me like the agency is delivering a really valuable service, because if you were running your one set of campaigns for your one business, you wouldn't be on it enough to be able to keep up with the technology. And secondly, you wouldn't have the time to actually stand on it and make sure that you are getting the value you need to, and that the campaigns are evolving in the way that they need to. So it seems to me like if you're doing that kind of stuff, then you absolutely need to have a marketing agency in your corner helping you with that. So the other thing that you touched on there that I'm interested in is this idea of ad blindness and how, I don't suppose you're marketing necessarily to a youth market, so you may not know this, but how young people are so good at not engaging with advertising at all. You know, so what's your experience of, what do you know about that? Or how do you feel about that?
Personally, so let's take it, I'm going to count myself as a young person because I'll turn 30 next month. So I personally hate ads. Like, it's ironic, but my business partner Josh is like, Al, you've got your ad blocker on. Of course, you're not going to be able to see anything. I've invested in the best ad blockers I could find. I've tried out a bunch of them. I've settled on AdGuard. It's amazing. Like, once I'm home, I turn on AdGuard and I don't see a single ad anywhere, to the point where I complain about them so much. My girlfriend's bought me like the full YouTube subscription just so I stop complaining about YouTube ads. And it's ironic, you know, but after working in ads for so long, you just see the system. And I think as a marketer, I see the system because I know how it works. But as kids, you know, like my 2-year-old, what do you call it, like cousin's son, just knows how to like use an iPad immediately. I think that they evolve and they immediately see those ads. Whereas for me, it's kind of like trained through the business. I think that they just know immediately that's an ad, I'm not paying attention to it. They might get burnt once or twice, you know, they want that instant gratification. So they click on it and then it takes them somewhere where they fill something out. Then they end up in their emails and all of a sudden kids are more like, what the hell am I doing in my emails? I don't email, you know? So I think there's different drop-off points. For brand awareness, I still think it's hugely effective with young kids, just to, I mean, young kids, we don't advertise anything to young kids, so I wouldn't really know, but the younger generation, it's still hugely effective to use social media to, you know, to advertise to them. But I don't know. I don't really know. I don't want to ramble on this topic because I don't have any data or any hardcore experiences to back it up, except my own, where I know for myself and my team, from a marketing perspective, we've evolved to stop seeing ads. And then we applaud each other when one of us shares a good ad of someone else. It's like, oh, wow, that's a really cool, clever ad. So I think, to shut myself up, but to end it on one sentence, would be having good, clever content that's either valuable or like edutainment, like educating, like Kickstarter was really doing that for a while. I think that's the best ways to get someone interest. And then to get them to convert, you just need to bomb them on all channels, no matter what age.
Okay. All right. So that's interesting. So also a friend of mine has a 2-year-old and it's amazing. He doesn't talk yet, but he spends a lot of time on YouTube or YouTube Kids or YouTube probably. And he's like hammering. He knows as soon as the ad comes on and he's hammering that button. He doesn't know how long 5 seconds is, but he's hammering it. So he won't be seeing that ad for a second longer than he needs to. And it just feels to me like one of the things that's gone on in kind of the digital marketing era is that people have become so exposed to advertising and I think so resistant to advertising, like in all of its forms. You're right, you need to make it entertaining and educational and kind of promotional. That's the only way through. But it does strike me that people are have become increasingly resistant to advertising. And, you know, if I speak to young people, they tell me they hate it. They absolutely hate it. Whereas previously, I think the deal was, like before the internet, we understood that a certain percentage of the magazine had to be advertising because the magazine had to be paid for. And at the beginning of the internet, we kind of understood that advertising had to be there because everything was coming at us for free. I don't know if that's changed dramatically since. I think it has changed dramatically since the internet. I think people are more resistant because they've been so exposed to so much advertising, I suppose. Okay, so I want to come back to the other thing that you were saying before: right person, right message, right time. You're now saying right platform, but actually the platforms will also want to choose the person for you. So why are you not saying right platform, right message, right platform?
Because you need to choose the people, right? The first thing you're gonna do, if I'm gonna sell like KYC services, you know, like know your customer, which is on the compliance side of things, then I need to figure out who's interested in you know, this very niche KYC. Am I selling a tool? Am I selling a service? And for that, I know that it's going to be like a compliance officer or the product manager of a company that is trying to take tech platform. So who are those people? And I really need to dive into those personas and understand them. Then what is going to work for them? If they're a product officer, it's one form of message. If they're the compliance officer, it's another. One's more going to be about, save time, etc. The other one is we're going to do all the hard work for you so you don't have to study and get your degree in compliance, etc. And then from there, say where are these people most likely to hang out? And that's going to be whether it's LinkedIn or is it email or is it, native content, advertising on blogs that they might frequent to learn from. So then that's why I'm saying it's a platform. Then I'm trusting that the platform is going to understand the personas we've created and the message we've crafted to, of course, optimize itself. We're going to be optimizing it and check out, okay, from all of these time frames. I don't think we optimize that much for time. We're more looking at kind of device and creative and message. So it might just be how our agency works. But once organic social media was dead, we noticed it in our content scheduling tools. They used to have optimize the post at the right time. And it was like, yeah, look at this awesome feature. And that isn't celebrated or even that obvious anymore. Now it's just like, yeah, post it and pay for it. So that's why I say the people really come first. And it's really what we focus on. They're really knowing that audience. And I think it also touches on what you said earlier about advertising and the ads. I think as there's so many people need to be much more specific on what they're good at and be better than it than everyone else. Being a jack of all trades and a master of none doesn't serve as well as it used to before. And now if you are very, very good at something and you focus on it, then you should want to pay other people to do the jobs that they are very good at instead of trying to do it all. And I'm referencing this in terms of where you were saying, before we were used to paying, we were happy to see ads like a percentage of a magazine or before television because we knew the stations and magazines had to be paid for. But that's when we were given the content and we were buying that content. But now the product is us. It's our data. We are the stock. So that's why we're so pissed off at seeing ads, because we are the stock that they're selling and we're also being shown ads. So it's like, we're the stock and we're the ones paying for ourselves. So it's a bit of a different relationship to when you accept that there's ads in a magazine that you got for free, because now it's not free. Now it's your personal data that's being sold, whereas at the magazine it wasn't. And I think that has a huge shift in why people hate ads so much, because they know that their data is being sold to be able to. I mean, I'm the guy that's sending you those ads, but that's the reality of it.
Okay, cool. So I'm really interested to have this conversation because I watched The Social Dilemma, and it's kind of like the nicotine industry. It's like, when they put this is going to kill you on the packets, it didn't stop people smoking because they knew it was going to kill them already. And that's part of the reason that they're doing it in the first place. So I kind of feel like the industry was quite pleased with that because it's putting out the message, look how clever we are. Now I know, because I've done enough Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these kinds of marketings to know that, and because I experience it. So people I spoke to, a friend of mine was like, oh, but YouTube's so clever. Like, they're landing on the right message. And what they're telling us in The Social Dilemma is not only are they able to target the right people, but also they're conducting their moods to put them in the mood to buy. Do you know what I mean? It's just a nonsense. For me, it's a nonsense. So I know that actually, so now when I'm watching YouTube, I don't pay them $10 a month because I'd be paying, God knows how many hundreds of dollars I'd be paying out if I gave everyone who wanted it $10. So I do run the ads and, I skip it after 5 seconds. I'm not hammering it because I know when 5 seconds is. But what I know is that it's the advertiser who's doing the targeting and setting the messages. And they are typically so lazy as to make it completely ineffective. So for example, now, if an ad comes up, and it's particularly irrelevant, then I will screenshot it and send it to my mate and say, look how clever YouTube are today. So I think the last one I sent was a couple of weeks ago, and they were trying to sell me a Chinese manufactured industrial floor cleaning equipment. Not even the floor cleaner. They wanted to sell me like the polish thing, and there's nothing, I've never done anything on YouTube to suggest that I am in the market for a Japanese floor polishing machinery. It's machinery. So this is what kind of interests me with it, is that, and the issue, sorry, I'm on a rant now, but the issue is that drives the cost up for everyone. Idiots in the market spending money that isn't relevant. Okay, so this comes around. Spending money on stuff that isn't relevant drives up the cost for those of us who are selling that relevant thing. And Facebook support that, drive that, because they say, look, we can identify your audience, we can put your message together, and we can land it on them at the right time. So just give us a check and we'll do it all for you. When the basis isn't done, not the basis you're doing, you're saying we're doing that work, we understand who they are, we understand what the messages are, we trust the networks to land the message at the right time. I'm speaking too much, but I've got to be in my bonnet about this.
No, continue. It froze for a second, so I'm glad you had continued speaking and didn't ask me a question, and I just sat there in silence. But it's there's no right or wrong answers in this. It's really just like, do you smoke or do you not? Do you advertise on Facebook and YouTube or do you not? You know, it's a bit different where if you stop smoking, you'll probably survive longer, and if you advertise on Facebook and YouTube, you'll probably survive longer. But it's still, you know, it's tough. I think that there's a lot of value driven in it, you know, that otherwise we wouldn't do it. I do look forward to the next evolutionary changes of how Facebook, I like how LinkedIn does it. I don't have a problem with LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn really is what it says on the tin. It's like, this is an industry for, you know, it's a network for professionals, market your professionality, hire people through it. I like the way that it's done it. Where Facebook, I think, lost people. It started off really being the social network and then became the ad network. And I think that's why a lot of people are moving towards and favoring LinkedIn these days. Although it's more expensive, because it's more expensive, people are a lot more picky with what they're going to advertise. So it's a higher quality of ads most of the time, and they're a lot more relevant if you're, you know, in the business side of things. For e-commerce, I wouldn't say it's particularly useful. But also, like you said, you know, this in-app advertising, which is wonderful, and Google have such a great suite of tools that with YouTube and with Google PPC, I love search advertising. I really think you have the opportunity to hit people at the right time with the right message. And at the right time at this point is, if you did happen to be like, how do I clean my basketball court? Then yes, you should have seen that industrial floor cleaner YouTube ad. But if you weren't Googling, you know, how to clean up an ice rink or a basketball court or whatever, you know, factory floor that you may or may not currently own, then you shouldn't have been seeing that ad.
I know, and this is what it comes down to. And I think, what do I think? I think just because I'm having this conversation with you, and I wasn't expecting to be this emotional, I just feel like I'm here saying everything was so good in the old days and everything's gone to shit now. Well, probably it hasn't. It's probably just the nature of the opportunity has changed maybe. But when I was between 2005, 2014, when I was driving the Effective Marketing Company, you know, we were spoiled because, you know, we had search engine optimization was like 2-3 years old at that point. Email marketing was 4 or 5 years old. Then social media turned up and it was brand new and they had no idea how to make money of it. And we really did really well out of it for our clients, you know, so we were kind of spoiled, I think, in that time. And I don't know if I'm just being a bit old and cynical, just thinking, well, everything must be shit now because I'm not doing it anymore.
I don't think that's what you're saying. I think what you're saying is that, like more what I'm hearing is that people should be much more careful with what they're doing. I think there are a lot of people that think they can just put out any ad on any platform. And that's certainly the case. A lot of clients who pick up where, you know, yes, you're advertising on Facebook. Yes. How do you set up your ad account and business manager? They're like, no, what's that? So are you just pressing boost post on the front end? Yes, that's what we do. So if you're just pressing boost post on the front end, of course, you're going to hit any Tom, Dick, and Harry with your thing, and nobody's going to care. But if you carefully target it, then it's going to make sense. So more what I'm hearing you complaining about, which is what I complain about, is we have these tools to be able to sniper target our ads. Do it. Don't walk around shooting a shotgun in the air and pissing everyone off. Just get your message in front of the right people on the platform that they want to see it on at the time that's suitable for them because they're searching for whatever it is, and just make sure it makes sense. Everyone else is just sort of wasting their own time, their clients' money or their own money, and then the consumer's time. And if, you know, if you keep advertising Japanese cleaning equipment to you, you're just going to hate Japanese cleaning equipment because it's in your face. So you're also doing your client or your own brand a disservice because you're showing the wrong people the wrong ads, and it's just annoying them. So you're kind of decreasing the value of their brand. So I think I agree with you, where people should be super diligent and just really focus on making, again, right message, right time, happy.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. And I think I'm just a miserable old, you know, I am just miserable and old, and that's what I am. But I think you're absolutely right. I think you have to be diligent. See, so it is marketers' fault, and it is marketing agencies' fault that they don't bother to do the hard yards on this stuff. And it is the platform's fault because they just continue to take the money. So, you know, that, like we joke that Google just want things to be relevant, and supposedly you get a discount if you are relevant, but I've never actually seen that in practice. So I think it's partly shit marketers' fault and partly the shit platform's fault. But you're right, the way through this is just to be that much more diligent and make sure you're doing the hard work to make sure that you are doing it right. And it is just annoying. I suppose you hope that people who are just spunking a lot of money won't be in the market long enough to damage it long term. I'll give you a for instance. This really annoyed me. This annoyed me to the point where I phoned Google up to complain about it. Like, that's how stupid this is, because you can't speak to anyone at Google. You can't speak to anyone. Forever, in the data, you can restructure the columns now. But one of the columns was always average ranking on PPC, this is. Okay, so I would use that information to inform what I was going to bid. So if I was on average ranking at 1.6 in the month and I wanted to be ranking in position number 1, then I would increase the bid slightly and I would see what happens over time. They took that metric away. Now, all you are buying is the ranking. That's what you're buying in PPC advertising, and they took it away. So I phoned them up and had an argument with somebody who's making, I don't know, $6 an hour in India, and said, why is this gone? And he said, well, the information is on the keyword planner tool. Okay, so it says top of page recommended bid, but I know that that's always been 30% higher than what you would actually have to spend to get there, because of course they are running the auction and they're taking the money. So of course they're going to suggest to everyone that they spend 30% more than it actually costs. So there was nobody, I've looked, nobody's talking about this. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing you're paying. They're not telling you what value you're getting. Why are people still continuing to advertise? And I think the main reason is 80% of probably people who are using it can't be bothered to do the hard work to work out what's going on for themselves. And the 20% who are probably just finding another way to bypass this situation. But this is what I mean. It's like, that is the one thing that you're buying, is where you're ranking. That is the one thing that you're bidding on. And they don't tell you the effect of your bid. That seems to me to be criminal. I mean, I'm sure I regaled you with all the times I got ripped off by these platforms. My customers got ripped off by these platforms in the course. But it just seems to me to be irresponsible. I don't know. I think I
agree. And this is, no, what you're saying is right. And this is why I initially said, and I still stick to it, that we do a lot of homework before we run an ad. So for example, now to run PPC ads, we don't just trust, like you said, if they are the auctioneer and they are the seller, obviously it's kind of a rigged system. So then we use like SpyFu, we use SEMrush, and we use Ahrefs. So we have to pay like a whole load of money for third-party tools to see the average data they get, compare it to Google's, and then say, okay, this is the direction we're going to be going in for PPC and what we should be bidding at. And then we run the tests and we see the results that come back, and after running a couple of, forced day spends, we then bid a bit higher and we say, okay, when we bid a bit higher, we got this many, cost per click, this many impressions, this many leads. And when we did it lower, was there a big enough value to was there a big enough change to warrant paying that higher price or bringing it down? And that's really it, you know. So right now, I think really what this is that you just have to use other tools to then judge how you're going to use Google. Whereas before, you just trust in Google. And since they did take away so many useful metrics, although they have given other metrics elsewhere, you know, you just kind of use other tools to help you suss out what's right and what's wrong. But I'm not going to pretend that there's like one. I don't know what's morally right from their side, what's right for them from a business side. I still think Google's a wonderful company and wonderful tools and everything it's done. You know, I can't imagine a world without Google. It's quite a weird concept how they find anything or what videos do. So I am a bit of an internet bitch.
Okay, that's cool. So I think, because I am thinking now when I'm talking to you, I think that, you know, my recommendation was always put in the hard yards. You know, don't trust these things, put in the hard yards. And I think I'm just a little bit bitter now that the hard yards that I was talking about 5 years ago are even harder yards now. But the message isn't necessarily the same. So, I mean, I've started marketing, the Effective Marketing Company again, and I am going to do all of these things. And I'm kind of interested to see how it goes. But I think maybe that's just my position, is that I always told people, do the hard yards, don't trust Google, they want your money. And now I think you're right, it's just maybe those hard yards have got that little bit harder. Okay, so is there anything else you want to say about kind of what it is you offer and the way you go about doing it? Is there anything else you want to talk about before I get on to this weird situation that we find ourselves in now?
No, I let my team do the marketing for us. I'm just here to chat to you and see what insights I can provide.
Okay, cool. So the world finds itself in this unbelievable situation. You know, people are being forced out of business. I'll tell you what my context is for this is I did a talk in 2009 when you were about 8. No, you were about 18. 18. For the last global recession, when everyone was shitting themselves about what was going on. And I used to do like really barnstorming, motivational, you know, driving the message kind of talks at that time. And what I did is I went through like all of the press though. So it was basically, what is all the fuss? What is the fuss actually about? What can we do about our situation? That was it. And so what I did is I went through the headlines and I'm like, this has been coming for, 18 months. They've been banging on about the recession. At that point, we'd been in recession officially like a month or two. So it's no wonder this came about. So here's all the fuss. What the fuss is about is lots of big businesses were really getting smacked. The number of small businesses closing was up 220%. Which meant that 220 businesses a day were going out of business as opposed to the 50 that were going out previously. But when you look at that globally, there's 4 million businesses in the UK. So actually it was still 0.003%. So effectively we'd have to sustain that for a year for 1% of the small businesses in the UK to go out of business. And then obviously what we do about it is effective marketing. The issue now is that there's whole industries being forced to close their doors, like the hospitality, the services industry, tourism, you know, large education, you know, they're not allowed to be open. So it seems to me like this is a very different prospect. Now, it might be that I'm just that much older and that much more scared than I used to be. But it seems to me that this is a much more frightening situation. So what is your recommendation to people who are, because it seems to me that people might have time on their hands, so it makes perfect sense they look at their marketing. What is your advice for people who are kind of in this situation? How are you talking to your clients about what's going on currently?
Sure, that's a really great question. Well, one thing we've mainly done with our clients is try to help them evaluate whether their business model is let's say, COVID proof. So we kind of do a workshop or two to understand, look, you know, what if, for example, you're not allowed to have people all together again? What if you can't have, you know, an office how does your business work? So what we've really spent a long time doing is helping our clients evaluate, just how their companies function, what the actual value they deliver is, and really just focusing on why they exist as a company, trying to forget how they've been doing it, right? So I'm sure you know the Synex circle, you've got the what you do, how you do, why you do it. So we really this year, or of the last year, let's say, 2020, focused on the why and the value that you're delivering and why are people doing it. Then we were looking at the how and saying, okay, just because you were doing it in the ways you were doing it before, is there another way to do it, which is maybe more COVID proof, which doesn't need your team to be together? If you're a small team and you're in the same office and one of you gets it, like in our case, then you're going to fall apart. So can you still deliver the same value that you were delivering before, but doing it in a different format? And once we've covered that ground, is where we so obviously, if you're a client, I'm hoping out of it, but I'm also instructing people or advising people to try and figure out how many free ways they can market. So, going like people are, like you said, bored at home, or were bored at home. I think now more people are finding their feet. But what I really have been pushing is kind of this video marketing, exactly what you're doing, and just set up live shows, go live, get yourself out there, don't be afraid, break the mold. Even if you haven't done it before, just go there and talk about what's interesting to you and see what feedback you get. And just kind of help people understand that just like Netflix, like Facebook's goal in my eyes is to compete with Netflix. It doesn't care about LinkedIn or Twitter, any of that. It wants your consistent attention, like Netflix does. The more eyeballs it has, the more money it makes. And because it stands to make more money, because you look at ads, you click on them, you interact with them. Whereas Netflix advertises kinds of itself, and its content is subscription based. So it just needs to convince you that, yeah, pay me that $11 or $9 or whatever next month. So with that in mind, if you go out and create content, even if you think you look terrible on camera, nobody's ever going to remember. The purpose is that you need to keep going out there and start off with free ways. Just put your message out there until you find a way that's comfortable and that sticks. Once you figured out, okay, this works, I'm happy to go on YouTube. Maybe I stay home and record it and edit it, and that takes a bit longer. Or maybe you're more like us, where time never feels like it's on our side. So we rather put out like a very raw video of Josh and I just talking to each other, whether we're sat near each other or apart or interviewing someone, that works for us. Put it out. And once we had done enough of those, then we started investing paid media into it to then see the jump. What happens when it goes from organic to slightly paid? We tried 50 euros, 100 euros, 1,000 euros. What happens, And then you start seeing the impact that comes back. So what I'm saying here is always think about your audience, think about the value that you want to drive to them, and try and find free ways. Although I know we've been talking earlier that organic isn't really there. Just find free ways to get your message out that's comfortable for you. So you could try TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, writing articles, writing blogs, maybe writing, columns for blogs or magazines that you like, and just practice it. And then once you're really happy with the way that you are producing the content and it kind of feels natural to you, then start putting some money into it to actually get it somewhere. But you're always going to be able to share your content with your family and friends, have everyone in your company sort of share it, and you're going to get that little bit of a network outreach. So you can experiment sort of, organically, we could call it. And once you figured out what works, put some money behind it. That's what I would really suggest. But really focus on the value that you're driving before anything else. Don't, like if you're a hotel, don't try and go and push out, oh, we're a hotel, come stay at us. No, what's the value? Well, the value is that you offer a staycation. So, try and target those locally around you. How can you best communicate with them? Can you offer them just a break for a weekend from their home, which is affordable, but keeps your staff being paid? Could you offer, if you've already got all the products anyway and they're going to go bad, offer crazy buffets just at least to make back some money on the stock that's going to go bad and to keep some cash flow going. So it really is, what's the value? How can we repackage it and then capitalize on it? And that's really what we've been pushing. For others, what we've been very lucky, and I think a big part of it has to do with our brand name being Growth Gurus. We've had so many amazing startups come to us with really cool ideas. And then thanks to, having a bit of a name, we also then can apply for government grants on behalf of our clients. So we do that quite a bit, where there's like an e-commerce grant in Malta where you can get like up to 10,000 euros, you can get 50% of it back. So you can get up to 5,000 euros sponsored by the government or subsidized by the government for your e-commerce site. They subsidize up to 75% of the training that we offer. So we've also understood as an agency from day one, when this hit, I told the team, guys, our marketing revenue is going to go down. So we're going to bring it back up by being consultants and trainers. And they're like, what? But right now, like I called it a year ago, and it's on the rise, where our government now even pays for 75% of the courses that we offer. We're not accredited or anything, you know, we're a digital marketing agency, but we have specific courses where we would go to your company, ask for access to your Google ads, your Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, study them, and then train your team to utilize them better, which enables more companies to employ more people and then also do a better job. And then it kind of keeps us on the consultancy and trainer role. So, you know, we had to do the same thing, because branding was never going to die, websites was never going to die, but marketing was definitely going to be in-house. For large companies, so we only do like larger our size. For smaller companies, we try to focus on training, or really large companies with teams, but you know, they're kind of employers now kind of have a much better choice over the market, because employees just need jobs. So they're snapping up people for like half the salaries they would have before, but then they need training. So, yes, you know, there's a mix of everything you can do.
Okay, so that sounds kind of like what my response was in 2009. It's like we had a queue of people around the building, and that kind of dried up, but everyone was going to need to carry on doing it. So we became a training person, and then a training company, and then it became like you met me when I was a lecturer with the Digital Marketing Institute. Okay, so that makes absolute perfect sense. How many of your businesses, how many of your clients did you have to tell them you're just not COVID proof, you're going away? That was a harsh question.
Put it this way, we would ask questions. We would ask questions, and then they would come to that realization themselves. So, you know, it's like, hey guys, you're trying to push this, but if this doesn't work, is there more money for continued advertising? They're like, no, this has to work. Well, you know, we don't take on clients who are gonna, if a client comes to us, oh, you're our last hope, we go, nope, no, we're not. No, it cannot be like that. You know, we're not taking your mortgage or your rent money or whatever. You're coming to us with your specific marketing budget, or your like, you know, startup loan or whatever it is. And you're telling us, I have money to invest in experimental digital marketing, not coming to you with everything I have left to make me a success. We have had a couple of those clients, and we gave it our absolute all. You know, they would have been small, 1, 2, 3 man companies, but we just really enjoyed helping them, and we had enough good paying customers to subsidize them. So, you know, and what goes around comes around. We helped some small companies, especially in like fitness and well-being, and then big companies came off around the back saying, wow, you did a really cool job for them. So ourselves, we never told the company like, hey, COVID is going to squash you. It just did.
Yes. Okay. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think that has to be the message. That was my message in 2009. That has to be the message now. It has to be, and this kind of goes to what I think marketing is. Marketing is essentially about seeing opportunities and finding ways to realize those opportunities. I don't know if you know, there's a book called Somebody Moved My Cheese or something about moving cheese, which is about this. Is, you know what, we live in a world of change, and you have to adapt. Obviously, the change we've seen in the last 12 months is monumental, but still you have to adapt. But I think that's actually what a good marketer is someone who can assess the situation, identify the opportunities, realize those opportunities. Cool. I'm really pleased that I played some part in motivating you to start a marketing agency, man. It seems to me like you're doing a thoroughly responsible job.
Thank you so much. It is always a pleasure to be in the courses with you, you know, and I appreciated that we had kept in touch. I always looked up to you. So it's a great pleasure for me to be talking to you here and hopefully sharing some wisdom with other people. But yeah, you're definitely an inspiration in my former years into getting to where we are today. So from all of Growth Gurus, we thank you.
Thanks, man. That's really cool. All right. So unless there's something else you particularly wanted to say, I think we kind of got to the end. Was there something else you particularly wanted to say?
I think that everyone just really needs to help everyone else out. I think that we're in a time where if the more you help and the more you share and communicate just as openly as you can and not to keep things in, the further you're going to get. You might not see the immediate return, but just keep like being loud and proud and out there about whatever it is you're doing, and it will come back. Those that are worried or scared or feel like a failure should not be shown, those are the people that are going to have like their fears come to reality. If you go out there and say, hey, I'm failing, help me, there's people who are building businesses around failing companies, you know. So I think there's a lot of a lot of people's minds have to shift to just go, my weakness can now be my strength, because the whole world is now seeing what was a strength is now a weakness. What do we, you know, get your SWOT analysis and turn it on its head and go, oh, cool, my weakness could now be my strength, and vice versa. And I think if people do that, you'll be in a much better place, you know. So just don't be afraid of what you perceive to be a weakness. Put it out there, and it might come back with something positive, or find like-minded individuals who also have that weakness, and you're going to fix it together.
Yes. What a lovely, positive message. Thank you, man. And it's true, isn't it? They say that in these situations, they create more millionaires than any other kind of curve on the economic performance. Recessions create more millionaires than any other time. So I think you're right. I think you have to stay focused. You have to stay positive. And I think one of the things is you have to be in the market talking to people. That's how you know what's going on, you know. And I probably haven't been, which is why I'm allowing them to scare me more than they should. You can speak if you like.
And sometimes it pauses, so I just smile and just hope it comes back.
That has happened a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that because it's getting recorded centrally, it's not relying too much on my internet or your internet, and that I'm hoping what we get will be fine, but it has frozen a little bit. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just more agreeing with your sentiment. I don't think there's any, I mean, there's a lot to be afraid of, but when it comes to online, there's nothing really to be afraid of. There's always someone who knows more and always someone who knows less. Someone's going to help you and you're going to help someone. That's just really the way it's going to go, you know? No one's ever going to know it all. That's pretty much it.
Yes. Cool, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. So I will catch up with you again soon.
Definitely. Looking forward to it. Bye, Martin.
Cheers, man. Thanks.